11 minutes past 10. As we go behind the news on the mid-morning show, I can reveal to you that the average woman buys, uses and throws away 11,000 tampons during her lifetime. The cost, anywhere between £1 and £3.50 for a pack, means that somebody earning minimum wage must work approximately 38 full working days to pay for her lifetime supply. Brushing over the fact that many people also use sanitary towels at the same time as tampons, 5% of this cost is tax. Both are taxed as luxury, non-essential items, and it can be seen as being told for having a womb. So, should sanitary products have tax on them? MPs, campaigners, even comedian Russell Howard has been getting caught up in the debate.
Did you read about tampons? Menstrual products are still considered a luxury item after MPs voted against scrapping the controversial tampon tax. Yep, women still have to pay 5% VAT on tampons because they're considered a luxury. Luxury? They're tampons! They're not Ferrero Rocher!
The MP for North West Leicestershire, Andrew Bridgen, voted against the tampon tax cut, but blames EU rules for the lack of control in the government.
Well, I was supporting the cut in the tampon tax. I gave my support to Steve Baker, who was leading the campaign. But at the end of the day, there was nothing MPs in UK could do about the tampon tax. It's inflicted on us by Europe. We tax sanitary products at the lowest rate we are available to at the moment of 5%. There is only one country in Europe that's zero rated, and that's Southern Ireland, because they bought that in as zero rated prior to the EU rules on VAT. But what we did get out of the minister was an undertaking that David Gauke would put a high priority on getting an agreement in Europe to cut the tax. I think it just shows your listeners the insidious way in which the EU has infiltrated all of our democratic systems, that even MPs in Westminster couldn't cut the VAT on sanitary products because of EU rules.
Well, can our MPs do more to show their support to the cutting of tampon tax? You may have seen stories in the papers this week about two women who launched a graphic protest outside the Houses of Parliament in the row over tampon tax. Charlie Edge was one of them, and I spoke to her earlier on this morning.
Basically, I waited until I was on my period, and then I went to Parliament and free bled with my friends outside, and we took photos and we posted them online along with a statement which has kind of gone viral about the fact that tampons and pads aren't a luxury, and the whole point of the protest was to prove that point. And I kind of feel like we have done, because the response has been either supportive or negative, telling us how gross and disgusting we are, and we're kind of stood here like, yeah, that was the point.
I'd absolutely take that on board. Were you not bothered, though? Because from looking at the stories about what you did, all of the headlines, it seems to me, focused on the abuse and the uncomplimentary comments that you got.
Oh, really? No, actually, honestly, I've only seen positive articles for the most part. The response that I've got has been generally really, really great. I've got solidarity from all over the world. I've got messages every day from people telling me how great they think it is. I've done a really good job at avoiding reading negative comments. I've generally only been reading the positive comments, and I've been reading and responding to plenty of negative feedback, but all of the abuse and hate that I've been getting, I've been doing quite a good job at just pressing hide on them and carrying on with my day.
Tell me how long you felt this strongly. Did it come about? Because obviously the Russell Howard rant got huge coverage. Is it something that you had been concerned about for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for years. Like, my mum said that she remembers having the same conversation 30 years ago about how if we all stopped wearing them, we'd get them for free really quickly. And it's true, if every person who needed to wear tampons or pads decided, okay, we're not going to wear them, we would get them for free. That's not what we're protesting. Obviously, we're protesting against the tax. But you know what? If the government were willing to put our 5% tax on tampons towards also providing free sanitary items on the NHS in the same way they do with condoms, and I would be absolutely okay with paying for it. But at the moment, that's not happening. It's going towards necessities like helicopters and stuff.
So you're not saying no to taxes?
I'm a crazy communist lady, so I would love a world without taxes. But I understand that in a capitalist world we need them. I just think that the way that this whole thing is being... I don't think that we should be taxing sanitary items as luxury. And I feel like if you look at all of the stuff that is taxed as necessities, the government could probably consider putting a few taxes on some of those things and taking the taxes off sanitary items. Or if you're going to tax sanitary items, like I say, put the money towards free sanitary items for us, or put the money towards free sanitary items for women in the third world, or put the money towards the people rather than towards the taxman's pocket.
In terms of taxes, we are at the lower end. France, I was astonished to learn, paid 20% tax on their female sanitary items. Ireland, though, of course, pays 0. So there's a discrepancy everywhere, it seems to me. What would you like the government to do?
I would like the government to readdress the decision not to take it to the EU, because there was the debate a few days ago and it was an overwhelming no. Well, not an overwhelming no. It was actually quite a small minority, a small percentage, but it was voted no. I would like the government to readdress that situation, that discussion, and also I've got messages from people in plenty of countries across the world and throughout Europe, and so our message is going viral, and it's there are plenty of women and plenty of people all over the place who are going, yeah, this is unjust. And so the fact that we're being spoken about in countries throughout the EU means that maybe the fact that more women and more people all around the world are getting angry about this means that the EU might change their regulations anyway. That would be lovely.
Would it be something that you would do and do and do again?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people told me to have more self-respect, but I've got plenty of self-respect. It's everyone else that doesn't have respect for me. I'm quite proud of myself, and I'm very proud of Ruth. And I think it's definitely something that we'd be happy to do again. But the response from this has been massively overwhelming. So we're just waiting to see how this all pans out first before we go on to stage 2. Obviously, we've got to wait at least a month before we do it again anyway. I've had lots and lots and lots of messages from people telling me they'd love to do a group protest. That would be absolutely brilliant. You know what? If people want to do it, then do it. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to take my lead from this. If this is something that people are passionate about and they've been inspired, then start your own protests. You don't have to wait for me to do it for you and to say, hey, come along and bleed with me. Do you know what I mean? If you're angry about this issue, start your own protests. Let's tell the government how we're all feeling about these things. Peaceful protests, that's the way. Yay!
Charlie Edge talking to me earlier on this morning about her very graphic and bloody protest outside the Houses of Parliament. That, of course, as I say, a very graphic way of demonstrating. It must be said, thousands of other women, rather than do something like that, have put their signatures on a petition to get that tax removed from sanitary products. It seems that everybody has an opinion on this, and we're going to be talking to two people very, very shortly on BBC Radio Leicester to find out what they think about it. And, of course, you are more than welcome to give us your opinion as well. BBC Radio Leicester, always welcome to hear what you have to think. You could text us if you wanted to on 81333 81333. Start your message with the word Leicester. Alternatively, if you would like to, you can drop us, give us a ring on our telephone line, which is 0116 251 1049. Let's now go to Charlie Slater, who can give us our East Midlands weather forecast. Morning, Charlie.
Yeah, good morning to you, and not a bad morning at all, actually. Plenty of cloud around, but that cloud thinning and breaking quite nicely to give us a much better day than what we've had of late. Some blue sky up there, a little bit of sunshine as well, and temperatures getting up to around 15 degrees Celsius for us today. Obviously, it's Armistice Day today, so 2 minute silence for that matter, in around 40 minutes' time. Should be dry for that, should be relatively bright, a bit breezy. And then as we go through the daytime today, obviously, Diwali Day celebrations as well, and it should remain largely dry and occasionally bright. As for this evening, obviously not bright because, the sun goes down, I've been, widely assured. And overnight tonight, we're looking at a largely dry one. There might be the odd spot of drizzle in this evening, but it'll clear very quickly, and the clouds will clear as well. It should be a largely clear and dry night, a whole lot cooler than what it has been. Temperatures down to about 8 degrees Celsius, and that'll see us through into Thursday, and it'll be a lovely start to the daytime tomorrow. Plenty of sunshine around, plenty of blue sky. Into the afternoon, though, it will start to cloud over. A couple of showers possible in the late afternoon. Temperatures at about 14 degrees Celsius once again, and still breezy. And then we start to see that wind and rain pick up. Friday will be a largely dry and bright day, but a couple of fairly heavy showers thrown in with some strong winds and a much colder temperature. Looking at highs of about 9 degrees on Friday will really take a bite out of things. And then Saturday, a real stinker of a daytime, wet, windy and cold before things dry out a little bit and get a touch milder again once we go through to Sunday.
Charlie, thanks very much indeed. More from him later on BBC Radio Leicester. Now back to our Behind the News story and the tampon tax. Waiting patiently on the line is Mike Buchanan, who's party leader of J4MB, that's Justice for Men and Boys, and Bridget Hamilton, who is founder of Verbal Remedy and Seeing Red. Mike and Bridget, good morning.
Good morning.
Mike, you've heard Andrew Bridgen and Russell Howard and Charlie Edge. What do you make of this argument?
I think it's a lot of hysterical nonsense. I sometimes wonder if normal women are not mortified by the relentless whining of feminists. Now, in the UK, no mention is ever made about the income tax gender gap. In 2012-13, men paid 72% of income tax, £69 billion more than women. And here we have women wittering on about 5% tax. Now, Stella Creasy MP in the House of Commons, she compared that 5% tax with what she claimed was a 20% tax on razors. But in fact, the tax on razors is 20%. You don't hear men going on and on about the 20% razor tax, do you?
Well, no, because in fairness, with razors, you do have a choice. You could choose not to shave.
Well, of course you have. But I mean, yes, but the majority of men are clean shaven, and women prefer men to be clean shaven. But the point is, women not only pay a lot less tax, they also get a lot more from taxpayers. So, for example, £350 million a year is spent on national screening programs for female-specific cancers. No, there is no male-specific cancer screening.
Prostate.
That's right, but there's no national screening program for prostate cancer, although more men die from prostate cancer than women die from breast cancer. So women pay a huge amount less than men in tax and get a great deal more for it. And here they are wittering on about a 5% tax on tampons. I mean, it's pathetic.
Well, hygiene isn't a luxury, is it? Hygiene ought to be something that we can all have.
Whatever it's called. I mean, this goes back to 1991. 28 countries or whatever it is in the EU would have to change it. It is just pathetic. It is all just part of the whole jigsaw that women must always be privileged. Women, whatever they do, they have to be advantaged, and it's just pathetic.
Bridget Hamilton,
Hello.
Hello. I'm sure you have something to say to Mike.
I have quite a few things. Firstly, the problem with the income tax, I'd like to think that they pay more income tax because, as we know from the 9th of November, which was Equal Pay Day, men are generally 14.2% better paid than women are. So if that means they're paying more income tax, then so be it. Secondly, EU countries do not have to all change. We've learned in the last couple of weeks that actually EU member states could all vote on whether or not they sort of regulate their own tax on sanitary products, as it were, which is something that people are quite happy to do. And that would mean that, you know, not all EU member states have to scrap the tax. There are some people, like some member states in the EU that pay tax on all things, even things that we consider to be essentials, bread, milk, food, whatever. So it wouldn't make sense for them to just scrap the tax completely. But if we can set or regulate our own taxes, I don't think the government really has any leg to stand on when it comes to keeping this 5% tax. I really don't.
What do you make of the fact that France already pay 20% tax on their sanitary products? I mean, we're getting off quite lightly, aren't we?
It's true, we are getting off lightly in that respect, but if you think that women pay around, on average, about £18,000 for sanitary products over their lifetime, that's quite a lot of money. And I don't agree with this idea that it's just a women's issue. It's not at all. You know, my boyfriend and I live together. We pool our finances. We do our weekly shop together. That £18,000 is coming out of his pocket as well. So this whole thing of women wittering on, I think, is a bit ridiculous, really.
Bridget, hold on one second. Mike, let me put that to you, because we have seen a rise in families using food banks, which demonstrates that money isn't going as far as families would like it to. Bridget there sensibly said that they pool their money, so her money is her partner's money. And you're saying that women are wittering about the price of sanitary products, but if they're having to go to food banks, money's tight anyway, and 5% tax is money that they could spend on their families.
Okay, well, I mean, feminists always exaggerate statistics, but let's say...
You're making lots of sweeping generalisations
there.
That's
true in every area.
No, it isn't true. You can't say feminists carte blanche exaggerate things everywhere.
I can, though. I can say precisely that, because we have hundreds of examples of feminists exaggerating things like domestic violence and rape and so on. But if we stay with Bridget's £18,000 on sanitary products over a lifetime, okay? 5% of that is less than £1,000 over a lifetime. So, I mean, that is small. You know, less than £1,000 over a lifetime. That's what this storm in a teacup is all about.
Well, I think many people would disagree with you, and I think £1,000 in a food bank would go an awfully long way to families. Bridget, tell me what verbal remedy and seeing red is all about. Well, Verbal Remedy is a social enterprise that I set up in my third year of university, and we are essentially, because I have a radio background as well, and we sort of do projects, campaigns all across multimedia about difficult topics, and Seeing Red was actually a campaign that we did all about periods, and discussing why women had suddenly started to get really annoyed about the tax, and why campaigns were coming in to not simply protest against tampon tax, but also against the general stigma that comes along with something that 1 out of every 2 people do every month for most of their lives. So it's been a really, really interesting campaign. I've got to speak to a lot of people, and hoping that the reverberations will sort of go further and further. Certainly a different way of protesting than the one we heard Charlie talking about earlier on in the programme. Yeah, it is. But I applaud Charlie. I think that what she did is fantastic. I think I wanted to just take it away from this feminist aspect that seems to be really riling Mike up at the minute. The long and short of it is taking away women, taking away men, taking away, sexism, gender bias, whatever. In the UK, essential items are tax-free. We don't pay tax on food, on pharmaceutical products. We pay 17.5 or 20% on luxury products. Some of the things that aren't taxed are ridiculous. Exotic meats, if you go and buy a kangaroo steak, that's not taxed. Edible sugar flowers to go on cakes, not taxed. Gambling and betting, not taxed. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it is. Sanitary products, towels, tampons are an essential. You can't go month to month without them. Therefore, they should not have an essential tax. Full stop. Bridget, good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on BBC Radio Leicester. Mike Buchanan, thank you very much indeed. Party Leader J4MB, Justice for Men and Boys, and for all of our guests this morning. Vivian in Wigston Magnum, morning love. She says, Monica, I can hear the women of Leicestershire screaming at the radio when we're accused of wittering on about the tax on sanitary products. It's something I no longer have to bother with. You and me both, Vivian. Vivian. But I'm totally in favour of the tax being dropped. Towels and tampons are definitely not a luxury, and I agree that if the ladies who still use them decide to go back to using rags as they did in my mother's day, the manufacturers would very quickly lobby the government to drop the tax. Now, there's an aspect we didn't explore. Can I just say, says Sean Fitzpatrick in Loughborough, that gas and electricity is essential and also has a 5% tax, and this costs a lot more and affects a lot more people. Sean, thank you. Very good to hear from you this morning. H says Mike Buchanan came across as a woman-hating male chauvinist pig. No, did he? Last caller, says Jan of Knighton, does he not realise that breast cancer also strikes men as well? Gee, I wish I'd thought of that. Yes. All disposable products are a luxury item, especially when there are many non-disposable alternatives. Tax should apply. Thank you for that. 81333, start your message with the word Leicester. That's what everybody has done so far. I don't want this guy, this is Eddie from St Saviour's, says, I don't want this guy representing me. I really don't like his views and I don't agree with him at all. The tax should be cut. And MH just finally has just popped onto my screen. The speaker representing men certainly does not speak for me as a male. I am sure his attitude to women is looked down upon by the majority of men. That's MH. Thank you. 81333.